owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. That's from St. Paul's letter to the Romans that we hear in the second reading today. And Paul goes on. The commandments are summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no evil to the neighbor. Hence, love is the fulfillment of the law. Jesus in the gospel today talks about one way that we love our neighbor and make sure that we do no evil towards our neighbor. He addresses that difficult situation when someone sins against us, as Jesus says. In other words, when someone hurts us. And his teaching is really practical and I think applicable to us. He says, first you go directly to the one that has sinned or hurt you. So in the context of love, and in willing the good of the other for the sake of their own good, go to the one who hurts you, who has sinned against you. And then name the problem as clearly as you see it, or as you have experienced it. You know, when I was a priest for just over a year, I've been assigned to St. Louis Church. The pastor at the time was Father Peter Sarton. He later became Archbishop of Seattle. He's now retired. It was during our second year at St. Louis that Bishop of Memphis had been named as the new Archbishop of Indianapolis, Archbishop Beekline. Some of you may remember him. In the absence of a bishop, then the Presbyteral Council elects an apostolic administrator. And so Father Sarton was elected as the apostolic administrator for the diocese in the absence of the bishop. So what that meant that in addition to pastoring St. Louis Parish, which was and still is one of the largest parishes in Memphis, he was also responsible for the pastoral care of the whole diocese. Well, at that time, he and I were the only two priests at St. Louis. And to say that it was a very stressful time for both of us would be an understatement. We were both so busy that we rarely even saw each other, much less had time to sit down and talk. Several times when he and I were at the same event at the parish, I walked up to him and jokingly said, "Hello, I'm Father David. Now, remind me of your name. I haven't seen you in a while." He would half laugh and kind of roll his eyes. But one day after the meeting and I made that remark, he pulled me aside and he said, got real serious. He said, "I have to ask you not to say that anymore. It's really hurtful to me that I cannot be as present to the parish as much as I want. And so it would be very helpful to me if you would not joke about it." I realized what I'd done. It was my way of dealing with the stress and making a joke out of it. And so I apologized to him and I never did it again. You know, that was one of the greatest gifts that he could have given me. He had enough respect and love that he came to me directly. And he clearly stated what I said that had caused the problem. And he gave me the chance to change. Jesus says that if you go to the other and they won't listen to you, then and only then do you take it to the next level. You take one or two others with you, and then you talk with the other. Again, Jesus is being very practical. See, by taking one or two other persons with you, it helps the other to see that this is not just some personal hang-up that you have with them, Because if you can't find one or two others, it may mean that you misjudged the situation. Remember, all of this has to be done, it must be done, in the spirit of love and reconciliation. If it's motivated by retaliation or retribution, then we are acting in an unchristian way. And see, that's often the problem, isn't it? When someone sins against us or hurts us, all we want is to pay them back, to get retribution, or to express our anger and what a victim we are. And so we skip step one. We go right to step two. But we go to step two only to gossip and to complain and to blame. And let's be honest, it happens too often in a church family. It is one of the things that causes division and undermines the unity that Jesus desires for his family of disciples. My grandmother, Roberta Graham, who's been dead almost 20 years now, or actually been dead over 20 years. I remember a lot of wonderful things about her. But you know the most wonderful thing I remember about her is that she never said an ill word or an evil word or a hurtful word about another person that I ever heard. And in fact, when someone would start to say something about somebody, she would, like my father would say, "Have you heard about so-and-so?" And she would stop him and say, "If it's not something nice, I don't want to hear it." It's one of the most wonderful things that I remember about her. Never said anything bad about another, and wouldn't let someone else say something bad in her presence or to her. Pope Francis once said in an address to the people gathered in St. Peter's, he said, "It's so rotten, gossip. At the beginning, it seems to be something enjoyable and fun, like a piece of candy. But at the end, it fills the heart with bitterness and also poisons us." I tell you the truth, he preached to the crowds there in St. Peter's Square. I am convinced that if each one of us would purposely avoid gossip, at the end we would become a saint. It's a beautiful path. So he asked the crowds, he says, "Do you want to become saints? Yes or no?" And the crowds shouted out, "Yes." And he said, "Yes? Do we want to live attached to gossip as a habit? Yes or no?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay," and we're in agreement. No more gossip. I've sometimes wondered that perhaps one of the only good effects about having to maintain a 6-foot safe zone while we're on parish grounds is because it makes it hard to gossip about each other and to trash our neighbor when we're standing so far apart. Because backbiting and gossip needs to be done in whispers. St. Paul says today, love does no evil to the neighbor. It says, owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. This is the debt that we never finish paying because it's based in God's infinite love for each of us. So, please, let us stop the gossip. Let us love each other. Love our neighbor. Even those that we disagree with and even those who hurt us. And if someone hurts and offends you, go to them directly, just like Archbishop